Venki, welcome. It's great to have you here. How's .next been?
.next has been great. It's been a great couple of days so far, and looking forward to the rest of the day today.
It's been amazing to have DataRobot here. Do you want to tell us a little bit, introduce yourself to our audience so that you know who you're talking to?
Of course. My name is Venki Veeraraghavan. I'm the Chief Product Officer of DataRobot, and I've been at DataRobot for about 3.5 years.
You know, as we march into the age of AI, we're seeing, obviously, as consumers, as users ourselves, we are starting to use AI more and more. ChatGPT, everything that we can in order to kind of improve our lives on the day-to-day. What's been very interesting for us as a company is to observe where AI is catching up and being adopted in the enterprise. Tell us a little bit about what you see from your end as far as adoption of AI in the enterprise.
Oh, it's a great question. Like every other technology, often it starts in consumer land. We get used to it, and then we come to the enterprise, and we want those same kind of ease of use and sort of the fluidity of that. And it's certainly something that we are seeing now with AI. And so just like how we're looking at sort of agents that are like ChatGPT that you can answer the questions about the web, people want the same kind of questions in the enterprise. So the way we think of what we're seeing in customers is there are different roles in the enterprise, and each one of them needs some kind of agent or a chatbot or something that will help them. So the most common way to start is in the enterprise has been customer service. Customer service agents have a lot of information that they need at their disposal, and sort of looking at like hundreds of screens, they can ask an AI to say, give me the history of the customer. And so that has been the natural place we've started. But we're now seeing that sort of progress deeper into the organization. So we're seeing things like, how does a supply chain planner look at the entire supply chain and sort of talk about stuff. So we are seeing sort of the increase of these agentic applications or agentic experiences sort of flow into different roles in the company.
And are you seeing it across specific industries? Are there verticals that are more prone to adopt AI than others?
I think a lot of these are, every company has some set of customers, and they have to customer service. So I think there's some of these are sort of broadly horizontal, secular, so they sort of show up in all the companies. But there are other places where it's sort of much more complicated in terms of getting security and getting access to that. And so those, for instance, banks, they're going a little slower because they have a lot more private data, they have a lot more security concerns, and they want to make sure that they don't sort of unintentionally leak stuff out. And so they're being a little bit more careful, while there are other companies like media and tech where they're much more leaned in because they have less concerns around some of these issues.
So, I want to touch on that point, but maybe before we go there, I have a question for you that's been interesting for us to observe as we meet our customers, where they are and try to bring AI into the enterprise. What have been some of the leading indicators, if you will, of successful adoption of AI? Things that you've observed with customers that when they get this right, they're able to do AI well. They're able to actually engage with AI rather than just expect AI to work, if you will.
That's right. No, it's again, I'll sort of date myself a little bit. So I've been at before DataRobot, I was at Microsoft, and I was there when Satya became the CEO, and he sort of talked about growth mindset. And I think like that's one of the first leading indicators for this sort of adoption of AI is the idea of like you want to learn it all and you don't know it all, because the technology is changing so quickly. People have to react to the new technology and how to change. And so having a mindset around what is going to happen, experimenting and learning and sort of iterating over that is super important. And I think that is the first way you sort of understand where you can find business value. And what we've seen is that the nature of success changes as you learn more and more about the technology. You might have said like, I want to remove X number of minutes on a service call, but you might think about, as you do more and more of this, that you might change your metric to say, look, I want to leave the customer delighted because I have so much more information, I can help some more. And so I think like that sort of iteration I think is super important. That's maybe the first thing I would say, which is cultural. The second one I think is around business value, which is like being laser focused on what is the business problem you're trying to solve and how are you trying to work on it over time, right? It's not just one and done. You don't just say, hey, I'm adopting AI, turn on a switch, turn on Copilot and call it good. You're not
AI
done.
as a means and not as an objective.
That's right. It's not just it's not a transactional thing. You say, oh, I've turned on Copilot, I'm done with AI. Right. You're really sort of leaning into the thing of like, how do I improve my my employees' productivity or whatever else you're doing. And so I think that's important. And I think the third one is sort of pragmatic and sort of understanding your constraints, right? Really understanding how much you want to pay for this. Do you have the skills and the infrastructure to support all of this work?
Yeah.
Right. And so, sometimes companies sort of start what I call, have a plan to start, but don't have a plan to finish. Right.
Yeah.
So they pick up a bunch of open source tools, slap it together, and sort of looks like a good POV.
Yeah.
But the plan to finish is like you got to put all of this in an enterprise environment, run it securely, and run it forever. And that's a different cost structure. So sort of really being mindful of the set of things you start with are not the things you'll end up with. Sort of understanding that is another. So I guess the final sort of part that I say is driving success.
So growth mindset.
Yep.
Clear objectives.
That's right.
And awareness to your constraints.
That's right. Perfect.
Okay, I think this is really good, and hopefully something that our customers can think through and maybe identify in their own environment. When we talk about constraints, much of what we've seen and the value that Nutanix has attempted to bring to this crazy time in the market is the need to adopt AI on-prem. Right. Often in air-gapped environments, right? We're in DC.
Right.
Can you talk to us a little bit about what you've seen in that respect? And, DataRobot has gone from dates back, more than a decade.
Yeah.
You guys started with predictive. This
That's
was back when it mattered less, and it was also deployed in certain areas of the business. You had not all business units were getting engaged with AI.
That's right.
When it came to predictive, but with Gen AI, all the business units want it.
Right.
All the information, all the company data is getting involved and engaged. What have been some of the considerations for this shift that we're observing to AI on-prem?
Oh, I think this is like the $1 million question. I think customers are very used to starting, and a lot of Gen AI really sort of got its start from the cloud and sort of ChatGPT and SaaS. But I think what people are finding is it's great to experiment and sort of work through it, but there are a bunch of problems that the cloud doesn't easily solve.
Yeah.
Right? And so things like sovereignty, like are you sure your data is within your company or your country's boundaries? There's privacy issues around is the model going to be used for training or some or some other purposes? Will I leak it by mistake? Right? And so I think there has been a sort of a big shift in people thinking about how do I think about this in the context of on-prem. And I think what I love about sort of the vision that Rajiv has painted for Nutanix is you can start in the cloud and you can move on-prem. And the sort of cloud native technologies that are in Nutanix and sort of like how we are using as DataRobot as a application on top of it allows us to sort of seamlessly move and provide the same experience in the cloud and on-prem. And so things like, how do you think about privacy or sovereignty, and most important, cost, right? And so instead of just, we've had multiple customers who have come and said, we built this great chatbot, we ran it, and then suddenly we got this big bill, and we don't quite know how to think about it, and we don't know how to monitor it and govern it.
Yeah.
And so, but once you have, it's okay to experiment and try to find the MVP.
Right.
But if you want to productionize at scale, then you can scale it, and you can sort of think about the capacity planning and have an on-prem thing that gives you all the benefits, but with some, without any of the sort of underlying problems of cloud.
Yeah, I think in that respect, we really think about AI similar to all other workloads, and we think about Nutanix platform as being developed in order to provide every workload with their optimal environment over time.
Right.
And so at a certain point, if it needs to run on the cloud, it can go to the cloud. When it needs to get back on-prem, we're able to get it back on-prem easily. So that flexibility is key, I think, for all workloads and for AI as well.
Absolutely, and we've seen this with our customers, and in the time I've been at DataRobot, we actually pivoted our platform to actually be cloud native so that we could actually run on all the hyperscaler clouds, but also on on-prem platforms like Nutanix and give the same experience. That's important. It's not just like there's some neutered experience for on-prem, you get the full experience.
Exactly. You guys have been very well known for kind of seeing around the corner, right? You started with predictive, you moved into Gen AI just as it was coming up, were ready to meet enterprises with that offering. Are you thinking agentic at all? Do you want to tell us a little bit about what DataRobot have in store for us?
Oh, of course, of course. Obviously, we are a full AI lifecycle platform, and part of AI is it was predictive before, then it went to deep learning, now it's generative, and agentic is coming up next. And so as long as we are in the AI business, I think we're going to support it. So you'll see a lot more announcements coming from us around agentic, and I think that is a part and parcel of that of being in that space. I think we're especially excited about doing that with Nutanix, because Nutanix provides a strong platform, and then has NAI that provides inferencing and LLMs. But what we do is work on top of that. We work on how do you build these agentic workflows? How do you think about what is the best workflow for in terms of cost and accuracy? Select between them, or then how do you manage them, and how do you do tracing and observability? So we are very complementary, and we think that we have a lot of work ahead of us and success with the customers.
Awesome. Venki, this has been amazing. I'm going to give you one more question for us to wrap up.
Yeah.
We grabbed you at the tail end of a lot of travel.
Yes.
How's DC been for you, and what have you enjoyed most in your stay here so far?
Oh, I have not been much outside the convention center and the hotel.
Fair
But the nice thing is I did show up in the train, and I came out of the thing and I saw the Capitol, which was awesome. And then today, just walking over, you can see the top of the White House. So I think it was really good to get a sense of DC. But I'm super excited to be with the Nutanix folks and and get the energy.
Awesome. Venki, thank you so much for the partnership.
All right.
We love working with DataRobot, and we look forward to everything that's to come.
Of course, thank you, Gali, for the opportunity to be here.
Awesome.
Thanks.